Hi, I'm Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Mike, and welcome aboard to our brand new podcast called Taking Off with Mike and Jen.
In this podcast, we will be diving in and unpacking all the baggage, anything from communication to finances, family dynamics, expectations, and what it looks like to fight or flight.
We have 32 years of marriage and a lot of Christian counseling under our belts, so no matter where you find yourself, whether that's being single, dating, engaged, or married, this podcast is just for you.
Are you ready to take your relationships to new heights?
If so, sit back, relax. We have been cleared for takeoff. Well, welcome back, folks. This is your Captain Mike, Flight Attendant Jen with you. We're glad that you're back with us. You obviously did not bail out of the airplane. You did not jump out of those emergency exits, and you're ready to hear the next portion before we land this jet. So, where we were from the last time is we talked about the day that we met. It was a 36-hour adventure, and now we're on to the next phase, which we're going to call the long-distance phase. As you recall, I lived in Daytona Beach. Jennifer lived in San Diego area. So that's where we are. When I first called her after our 36-hour meeting, I was very excited to speak with her, obviously. The fun of the 36 hours of hanging out was over. I was excited to basically get to know this girl. And I knew, or actually didn't know, when I was going to get to see her again. I had no idea. I'm in Daytona. She's in San Diego. She's a flight attendant. She does have access to get around, but it wasn't for a month. It was 1 month before I was able to see her. And it was a trip that I had through my corporate flying out to Las Vegas. So that was the first time. Up until that point, it was 25-cent per minute phone calls. I mean, I remember having ridiculous phone bills. We sent letters, which we still have to this day. And it was a long-distance relationship of just waiting, it felt like. You didn't have instant access to FaceTime calls. You didn't have access to, I'm just going to call her on my way to the gym. It was, well, I wonder when she's going to be home. I may call her and she's not even going to be home. I mean, we're talking like voice message machines at this point. It was crazy. And so for you out there that are young and you want to see your,
or older.
or older, the older people though are going to understand that,
True.
They've been through this before. They know what it's like.
True.
They've had to wait for things. That, if you're having a relationship with somebody and you want to be with that person and you want to hang out with that person, just let it be what it is. You don't have to be able to contact them every day. Things can take time, right? We just sent letters. We made phone calls whenever we could talk.
Yeah, there was something to that.
And it was big. It was big time courting. It was being comfortable with the unknown. Because remember, this was February of 90. I had met her.
And then I went to the Philippines with my mom shortly after that trip when we met. So then he called me in the Philippines, which I don't even know how many hours away that was from Florida, because we're like a day ahead in the Philippines. He called me, and of course, if anyone ethnic out there is listening, that was a big deal for all my aunties and everyone that was around when Michael called, that this guy called me all the way in the Philippines. That was very impressive to them. He got good brownie points on that one.
Well, especially back then, because it was a big deal to make like international calls.
Huge.
For sure. Yeah. Who knows what that was? Not 25 cents a minute. It was probably $1 a minute.
Oh, I know. And I was old school. I was raised not to really, although the note in the wallet, but I was old school in the sense that I wasn't calling him. There was no way I couldn't afford it on my salary, calling him. So I had to wait for him to call me. And we did do a lot of letters back and forth, which there's something to be said for that. I agree with Michael in the sense where he said, everything's cool. You guys all have access, which is cool, to FaceTime, to location, where are you, that kind of thing. And there's something to be said for not having all that so instantly. There's a little bit of excitement in that, in the wait. So for those of you that are in a long distance relationship right now, don't let the little itty bitty things that you might be used to now get in the way of maybe continually pursuing that relationship. Don't let it be such a red flag. Long distance to me is so not a red flag. I think it's kind of a good place to be, honestly.
Yeah, it forces you into a different form of communication and a different form of having a relationship that is, it leaves more to the imagination.
Yeah.
And this was February of 1990. I wasn't supposed to graduate till December of that year. I didn't know where I was going to go. My career path was, I'm going to try to get to the airlines, which means when I graduate from college, I'll go anywhere. I'll go anywhere in the world to get flight time. And although I met this girl, my priority at this point after meeting this girl was, this is my future. I mean, even if I am with this girl, I'm going to need a job. I'm going to need to take care of this girl and have a life, right? And so it was just do what I had to do. So going forward, 2,500 miles away, it was just do it. Just do it. Just do see what happens.
Don't make a big deal about it.
Whether you have the opinion whether you have the opinion of whatever happens, or if you have the opinion of God will make this work if it's supposed to work, or you have the opinion of just have fun until it doesn't exist anymore, do that, because whatever happens. You can't control that stuff. We had fun with it. Mm-hmm. We communicated. We wrote letters. Fortunately, because she was a flight attendant, when she could get to Florida, she would get to Florida. But it was an entire month of not seeing each other at all.
And that happened a lot through that summer.
Oh yeah, it was. But yet, because there were the phone calls and there were the letters, that if you wrote a letter every day, you'd almost receive a letter every day.
Right.
It would take a while, and we did.
I'd have to look. I do have every letter he's written me, and I would have to look, but we probably did write them a lot.
Oh yeah, there were tons of letters. Absolutely.
But anyway, yeah. So
that very first time that we met, I had a trip out to Las Vegas, and it was a layover for me, and I don't even remember how long it was, but she had a cousin that lived there. Yes. And so she stayed with her cousin, and that was the first time that we got to see each other after that very first time in Florida. Which was pretty cool.
And of course, me not wanting to lose this new guy that I just met.
Uh-oh.
Oh, golly.
Where's this going?
You don't remember? Well,
go ahead.
Well, he said, so you want to go snow skiing? Because in Vegas, I want to say, I don't know if I'm correct, but I thought it was called Mount Lee, something like that. There's a mountain near Vegas that actually has snow on it during certain times of the year. And so he was on that layover and he said, hey, do you want to go snow skiing? Do you know how to snow ski? And, I kind of lied. I was like, yeah, I know how to snow ski. I don't know how to snow ski. And so, I'm from Southern California. We hung out at the beach. And my cousin's husband taught me how to surf, but I'm not like a big surfer either. But I don't like it cold. So I said, oh, yeah, I am snow ski. So we meet up and we attempt to snow ski. And I think I just was like, well, if I break something or if I die, I'll go out with a bang.
Yeah.
But I was so scared.
That's true. I remember that.
Yeah.
That was good times.
We did. We had fun. We went skiing. You met my cousin. Went to dinner, I think that night with your boss, maybe the other pilot.
Oh,
I feel
really?
like, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we did that. So yeah, we did that, got to know each other more. Still know what you would call now red flags. We didn't call them red flags back then. Back then it was a little bit easier. You just were like, that bothered me. Keep going, or that bothered me. I'm done.
Well, and to be completely honest, we were looking through a different lens back then. We look at things differently now in what we would look for in a partner or a spouse. And so our, list of items, I guess you could say.
Like we didn't have non-negotiables back then. We hear that a lot from our kids, our young adult kids, and young adults at our church, people we, are friends with, and they have non-negotiable lists now. I'd love to look at some of those lists and probably cross some of those things off. But we didn't have that back then.
No, we were pretty wide open and
free.
just kind of carpe diem, just seize the day and go forward.
Yeah.
You're
hot, you're fun, let's get married. I mean, that's kind of, right?
It was maybe a little more serious than that, but maybe you and I looked at things a little bit differently.
Totally.
I don't know. We're going to get into, we talked about stowing your baggage before this flight, and you guys wouldn't believe how much baggage there is that needed to be stowed in our relationship, and where that has gone. And we'll get into that as the months come forward, to be able to see where we and our audience meet and match with the different things that go on. It's quite a story when we get into it more deeply. But just to lighten up a bit, so after Las Vegas, I would say the next meeting that I had was with her family. And her family is a trip from every regards. It's been 33 and a half years of knowing her family. And, when they say that people grow up on different sides of the tracks, sometimes you say that that's from a financial standpoint, and then other times it's just culturally, it's everywhere in between. And that was what her family was. Absolutely an exciting family, fun family to be around. Crazy. The cultural aspect of the Filipinos, super fun. If anyone's ever been around Filipinos, just the most fun, outgoing, laughing, smiling group of people that exists.
Eat, dance. Laugh, eat, dance, repeat.
Yeah, laugh, eat, dance, repeat. And so that very first meeting, or very first time that I was on a trip back to California, I got to meet the family.
Okay, he's telling the story.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell the story.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Fasten your seatbelts.
This is where Jen gets a little vulnerable, because it is truly unbelievable.
Yeah. So I get out to California. I had a trip to Carlsbad, California, and it was go out to dinner. That was kind of a benign thing for the most part. Go out to dinner, sit across from the family members, and just get to know each other and so forth. Dinner's over, and we're going to head back to Jennifer's house. So we head back to Jennifer's house, and we decide to play a board game. And it's just four of us. It is her brother, one of her brothers, his brother's wife, and then Jennifer and I. Now, keep in mind, this is the third time that Jennifer and I had been together.
Yes.
There was the Florida, the Las Vegas, and now the Southern California. Third time. Totally into this girl. Everything's going great.
I'm still perfect in his eyes.
Yeah, you're still perfect in my eyes. There's just,
All right.
a few little funny things.
Okay.
This is the very first one that ever happened.
Okay.
So we're playing a board game, right?
Yeah, totally.
Can't remember what the board game is.
Clue.
But we're sitting around the table across.
No, the couch.
There's a couple couches. The way I recall, there's a couple couches. There's one on this side, and her brother and his wife are on that side, and then Jennifer and I are on the other side, and the board game is in the middle. And we're playing this board game, and then all of a sudden, her brother picks his nose, flicks a booger into the air, and it lands on his wife's cheek, and she goes, "Get it off! Get it off! It's on my cheek! It's on my cheek!" And we're dying laughing about this. Dying laughing.
I'm crying. I'm mortified that my brother did that. She's freaking out.
Booger's stuck on her cheek. He's not doing anything about it.
Right.
Jennifer rears back.
Okay, Okay, sorry.
In her white jeans, laughing so hard. And all of a sudden, with no warning whatsoever, kaboom happens.
Oh, gosh.
She lets one go that sounds like a male elephant. It just got an asteroid that hit it.
Oh, my gosh.
And I mean, from the booger on the cheek and what her brother was doing to Jennifer backwards, third date, letting one out like this that I didn't know could exist out of a 100-pound girl. I just thought to myself, why am I here? What is going on? Like, first of all, the booger isn't even the deal right now. You know, where's the booger?
Oh my gosh.
And she does this. And so it was an introduction, quite frankly, to Jennifer, who she is, the laughter of the Filipino culture.
I don't like toot out loud all the time.
Well,
it's always accidents. It's accidents. And I didn't even know I had to do that.
Yeah, of course.
But I was laughing so hard.
75-year-olds don't know they have to do that. But 23-year-olds maybe should.
I was laughing so hard that it just, when it came out, I think I passed out in my mind because all I remember right now, I can envision it like it was yesterday. And all I can remember was, oh my gosh, what just came out of me? And I don't remember looking at him
she probably
ever
didn't
again
look
that
at me.
night.
I
don't remember looking at his face because I thought, oh my gosh, that's it. He's going to break up with me because he is going to be like, what is up with this jacked up Filipino family with flicking things? And then that comes out of her. Oh my gosh, it wears me out. It
does wear you out.
It was funny, but I'm still a little bit embarrassed for sure by it, for sure.
But she comes by it honestly, I'll say, without saying too much. There's just certain people in the family that do the same thing all the time. Oh, I didn't say it. I did not say that. But that's true. That is true. It just is what it is, I guess, right?
Yes.
So that was date number 3. And yes, I did come back. I did come back. I must have really been into this girl. So that was date number 3. Gosh, there were a lot of trips to Florida that she took. Yeah.
I think that was your last California trip till you moved.
Till I moved.
Recall. Yeah.
So to get you up to speed a little bit on like where was my head in this deal? My head was just, I want to be with this girl, but I have this aviation career that I'm going to, passionately go after. And I'm just going to try to get a job. Well, I had been flying around, as you heard, all over the country, flying corporate. And every time I would fly to a city, I would just pass out resumes. Not knowing if it would come to anything at all, but I would pass out resumes just in hopes that when I did graduate that following December, I'd get a job. Because the whole goal was I need the hours, I need the experience, I want to get to the airlines. Maybe Jennifer, she does understand this because she's a flight attendant, and we'll just go on this adventure wherever it happens to be. Long distance relationship, so be it. It is what it is.
Right.
We were liking each other. I was in the aviation world. It is going to be what it's going to be.
We just didn't really think that far ahead.
It was just
things. We really didn't.
No.
It was, let's write letters. I talked to him when he called. I knew he was looking for, he needed, a job. I was with my career, but he needed to find a flying job that would get him his jet time. So I knew he'd be anywhere. And in my mind, all I could think of was, oh gosh, don't let it be like somewhere in the Midwest where it's cold, that kind of thing. But that was really about it.
And I would have gone anywhere. So the bottom line, that July, another opportunity came through. All my jobs that I've ever gotten have really been what I consider God things. Just the providence of good things happening. I would take steps. I would hand out resumes. I would jump through that door, but I was still just at the grace of God in getting these jobs. And so I ended up getting a job 10 minutes from her house, which was unheard of. I was 21 years old. I get to go fly jets 90 hours a month. It happens to be 10 minutes from where this girl that I just met 5 months earlier lives. And that's when our relationship obviously took off. So when I got that job and I told her, hey, I got a job, it was kind of a drum roll situation. where, oh no, where is this going to be? Is this going to be the Midwest? No, matter of fact, it's going to be 10 minutes from where you live. And that was
It was unbelievable.
7, 8 months after we met, 6, 7, 8 months after we met, that I moved out to California. And it couldn't have been any better. What was...
Did you? Well, I think we need to back up a little bit.
Okay.
Because we need to tell at least a couple stories of our dating experience.
Oh, I forgot about that story.
I knew you would. It's okay. It's important.
This is this might be one of the first baggage situations.
Big ones that we remember. So, we did
this. Would be a red flag.
Oh, yeah. So
this would be red flag.
We dated, as Michael said, long distance, writing letters. He'd call when he could. I would see him. I mean, maybe really, I probably saw him once a month if I, could think back to flying out there once a month. And we spent a lot of time in Florida during the times, that I would go out there on my trips. And this one experience that we somehow remember the most because it was like, whoa. I'll let Michael tell it. I just wanted to bring it back to,
So this is when I think about this story, it's one of the more stressful times in the beginning of our relationship. This is going to kind of get into a little bit of historical baggage.
And kind of why we want to do this.
And
why
this
we
is
propelled us.
Yeah.
Really.
So when you look, if you get to know us through podcast number 1, flight number 1, and you say, oh, this married couple, they seem to really love each other and 32 years of marriage and blah, blah, blah. That's called work,
Yeah.
grace, and lots of Christian counseling to get through what we have been through. What we were in the beginning is completely different than what we were now. We used to say to each other, basically, I love you and I hate you.
We didn't know that, yeah.
It was wrapped up into one. It was where we would be in a major fight, and then for whatever reason, we would smile at each other and start laughing. It was that jacked up.
That was later. That was later.
Later as in right after we were married?
Yeah, but there's a lot in between.
Oh, my God.
Then and there.
So
it wasn't all sugars and daisies,
Sugars and daisies. And that's another thing that you're probably going to get to hear Jennifer say over the next
sugars and roses?
many flights is we call them Jenniferisms. And it comes out of the Filipino culture to where she doesn't quite get the statement right. And you'll hear this. So it'll be fun. Everybody can, type in and say, hey, Jen, you said that wrong. This is what it really is. And we get a kick out of it. We've embraced it, right?
Yes.
So daisies and roses, whatever that is. It wasn't all daisies and roses.
Is that what I said?
Something like that.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I did not grow up the jealous type at all.
I think tell the story first. I think you have to tell the story first.
Okay.
Because yeah.
So we're cruising down the road in my Ford Ranger.
We're on date. We're in Florida.
We're by the airport. We come up to a stoplight. It's a little single passenger type Ford Ranger, no back anything. It's just a little tiny little cab. It's a little bitty truck. Jennifer's sitting as my passenger. I'm driving. We come up to the stoplight. We roll to a stop at the stoplight, and then you know how cars come up beside you to stop after you, but they're going in the same direction. They stop either on your right or your left, and because there's motion on your right or your left, you just kind of look over because there's motion. Who's in that car? What is that? I look over after stopping. I don't even remember that there was a girl in the car. I just know a car stopped to my left, and I look over. And the next thing Jennifer says to my right is, why don't you just marry her? At this point, I'm just flabbergasted. I should have gotten out of the car, run into the woods, and never to come back again. That's when I look back like this. What is she? I'm with this girl. She's my girlfriend. where did this come from?
And then
where did this come from? This car just stopped for my left. What do you mean? Why don't you just marry her? Marry her.
So then we start driving off because we're at the light.
Oh, golly.
And I want to say that was our first real gigantic fight because we started fighting. And I recall, like, first, obviously, he didn't know where that came from. I really didn't either. But knowing myself, apparently, I was a psycho jealous person. And so as we're driving down the road, he is wanting to know what happened. We start fighting about that and probably, just everything going down that little rabbit hole. And I remember at one point saying, stop the car. I'm jumping out of this car. If you don't stop the car, I'm going to get out. And he's like, I'm not stopping the car. I'm like, I'm going to jump out of this car if you don't stop the car. And he would start to go slowly. And I feel like I remember starting to open the door. And at this point, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm guessing in his head, I've been dating this girl for like 4 or 5 months. She's a psycho. Where did that come from? And of course, I didn't jump out of the car, but I do remember pulling over, and I think, we fought in public, on the road, whatever. I didn't care. I didn't care who was watching. When I was back then mad at something or something made me jealous, it was like this whole other person took over, and I went psycho.
It gives me a little PTSD.
It does. Every time he tells the story, because we've told this before.
I feel a little weak right now.
It literally stresses him out a little bit.
I mean, it's just one of those things where...
Wow. Yeah, it was a lot.
It's hard to be on the wavelength, right? I mean...
So if you were talking back then about red flags, I'd say that was a big one for him.
So talking about maybe a little bit of baggage that we had spoken about earlier in that first takeoff, when I had met you in Florida and we were at dinner, and I was asking a whole bunch of questions about your family and how you grew up and, et cetera, et cetera. And one of them was, tell me about your family dynamics. Are your mom and dad married? And the answer was no, they're not married. And my dad left the family when I was 13 or 14 years old and abandoned us and went off with his mistress. Well, if you fast forward now to the Ford Ranger story, and I look over at the girl, the first thing in your mind is you're 13 or 14 years old, and this guy has the potential to leave me for this person in the car, which is, not rational, right?
Of course not, no.
But that's where that is coming from. That's coming from the old little Jenny.
Yeah.
And the feelings that she had is, I'm going to lose this guy to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so why don't you just marry her? Came out of that
fear
and that baggage and that trauma that you'd suffered 10 years earlier.
Correct.
Essentially.
But I didn't know it. We didn't know that at the time.
No. This is pre-counseling. This
young
is
in love,
anything.
doing our thing.
This is, this is all the outside forces that all couples go through, whether it's their baggage that they've created, the baggage that their family has created, the baggage that their friends, bosses, whatever it might be, it's still a part of who they are and why they make the decisions and feel the way that they do.
Correct.
That's why we all have different opinions about things in life, is because we've all had these different experiences. Some of them are completely legitimate and some of them are illegitimate lies, right? I mean, I had no intention on anything except there's motion to my left and I look over and therefore I'm going to leave you and you're over me and why don't I go marry her?
Right.
And so this is where, when we talk about these podcasts, these flights that we take and these discussions, the years of counseling and the years of jumping through these hoops and understanding each other and understanding where does this come from is why we want to share this with the next generation.
For sure.
Because we basically want to enlighten, this is what's going on with you guys. This is nothing between you and him. It's between what was or
Right.
what happened to you or the decisions that you made, the consequences of either someone else's sins
Mhm.
or your own, mess ups or whatever. That's what we dealt with. And that's why it was so, gasoline and fire in
Yeah.
the beginning. And I have my own baggage that I didn't even understand and came to the conclusion, well, how's this affecting us? Because hers was so strong, hers was so irrational, so strong that it was just masking my own baggage that I had through my own family and experiences that would not come out for many, many,
Oh,
years
many
later.
years. Yeah.
Honestly, still realizing, oh my gosh, I do this because of, and then I
Blah.
can look back and I can see that. And then, I was blinded in many ways from my baggage because, as I said, hers was so strong that it was taking priority.
Yeah.
It was the one that would just slap you in the face.
Right. And we like to tease and say, I brought in, let's say, 10 semi-truckfuls of baggage, and Michael brought in 1. But in saying that, that doesn't mean that everything was my fault or that I was the one responsible just because I had more of it. His 1 was plenty. That's just how it was. That's just the hands we were dealt in this life,
And many of the baggages that I have, she doesn't have. And
Right.
so that's where we complement each other
Mhm.
when we're able to sift through that and get to the bottom of why do you feel this way and I feel this way? We're not on the same page. This is why. And this is not true. And this is really what, how we feel and what
Right.
we're getting to.
So a lot of that dating time before he moved to California was truly, I feel like a lot of the fighting because it started ramping up. That was
That's
like
a good point.
that
It
was
really
like
did start to ramp up.
the opener of, okay, the fluffiness is starting to kind of go away and dissipate. I'm still enamored and in awe with him. But I was losing myself in him. Again, not realizing that I was losing myself in him. All I thought about was, I'm really loving this guy, lusting, loving, whatever. And I don't want to lose him. So now I'm going to change who I am a little bit just so I don't lose him because I was so afraid that I would do one thing wrong that he didn't like or agree with and he'd be gone. And that was literally my mindset. Again, not knowing the baggage word and all this other stuff. So a lot of our fighting was me just being jealous over just whatever, just whatever, and then him not responding the way I thought he should or, that kind of thing.
It's funny because when you say that you would change maybe the way that you were and try to be a particular way so you wouldn't lose me, because then I go right to, well, gosh, by you saying, why don't you just marry her at a stoplight?
I know.
That's the
You'd
complete
think.
opposite.
I know.
That's what would make me want to run.
I know. It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. So that's one of the stories in Florida.
Almost, and I'm just saying this because we're being very, vulnerable and open in this podcast, right? So to the point of, so back then when we were dating, little backstory, I was raised, what you would call in a Christian home, but kind of not really. So I knew in my mind right and wrong, stepped away from that life for a long time and just kind of did whatever I wanted to do. Then I met Michael, right? Because remember that prayer in the first takeoff that we had? And so I was trying to change, myself for the better, what I thought was better back then. So me not wanting to lose him, it even got to the point where back then, I will say, we were sleeping together. I would literally sneak out of bed earlier than him, brush my teeth really fast, and get back into bed so that when he'd wake up, he would, hey, good morning. And I'd be like, hi, I'm awake and my breath smells good. Like, that's
new
not
information.
real.
Never even heard that.
Did I ever tell you that?
No.
I used to do that all the time.
Gosh.
Because I was scared that if we would wake up together.
I was manipulated.
I know.
I was completely manipulated the whole time.
I was scared that if we would wake up together and you'd smell morning breath, let's be real. It's real. It's not what the movies are. That you'd smell my morning breath and be like,
wait a second. You don't do that now?
No. I just smell that good in the morning.
Okay, I see.
That I would think, oh no, he's going to leave me because my breath smelled, right? I was ridiculous, you guys.
Yeah, and I was oblivious to this stuff.
Totally.
Because this
I'd even brush my hair. I'd brush my hair, brush my teeth, get back into bed, and I'd lay there like this. Hi, good morning.
Wow.
I did.
Wow.
You never knew that?
No, I didn't know that.
Wow, that's funny. But that's kind of, things show up in our lives every few years.
They do. That's another thing is about every 5 years, there's something pretty big that happens in our relationship that we didn't know about. It generally comes from Jennifer's side. Just a new bit of information.
And now even our kids are like, you didn't tell us that, Mom. I'm like, yeah, I thought I did.
Yeah.
There's just a lot in this head. It
makes for a fun, adventurous life for sure.
Yeah.
So after the Florida incident with the truck, as she said, things ramped up. And it wasn't long after that we were on to the next level of excitement, I should say, because I did get that job in California. Had I not gotten the job in California and hadn't moved out there, who knows what could have happened with our relationship, but that's what happened. So I moved out to California and it was July or August of 90 and actually moved in to her house with her mom and family in 1990. That's what we did. I was 15 minutes from my work, and that's where I lived. So it was that following November, just a few months later.
On her birthday,
that I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. And this was from February to November. So this was a relatively short period of time. Things had progressed. We had been through a lot in that 9-month period of time.
We don't remember all the nitty gritty of the fights. We probably blacked those out, blacked them out. I don't know. They're gone. They're gone from our memory bank.
God's very graceful with our memories. And
there was a lot of fighting, a lot.
It was a pretty irrational relationship, I should say.
It was fun though. Like, how'd you used to quit? Like, we'd have so much fun, but then we'd fight so hard, but then we'd have fun again. So it sort of diminished the fighting, I guess. And I guess that's where you still felt like, well, I love her, I'll marry her. That I don't know what was in your head, but
yeah. So this kind of continued. This relationship continued. I lived at her house. We were engaged, and then the following May is when we got married. And I think now's a great time to land this plane, and then we'll get into the next time, starting with the next giant, crazy story, which is our wedding day, and our honeymoon. Crazy as crazy gets was our honeymoon and our wedding day. And again, if you think that we have things figured out, just wait till you hear this next one, because it is a doozy. Right? You have anything else to add?
No. It's just talking about these things again. It's like my head is spinning because I feel like, we've been together so long now. Married 32 years. I guess we've been together 33 and a half. And I love that you touched on the fact that we can sit here and talk about these things now, and we do have a great marriage. It's not perfect, but we work on it, all the time. And we still have, the fights are less, way, way less, but they sneak up every once in a while. So I think it's just, when I tell these stories, I remember them so vividly, and it was, this is me, start to cry. It was such a fun time in our lives. We were young, and we had fun, but it's like a whole separate person, in a way, but in a good way. We don't regret anything.
Now, you've changed a lot.
Yeah. Well, so have you.
Changed a lot. It's well worth it, that what we went through, because we can give back now. And the goal is we can talk to married couples
Dating
at
couples.
different times in their lives, being laid off from jobs, being married. I mean, we have stories of we're married for 6 months.
Don't give it away, babe. Don't give it away.
Okay, I won't.
Don't give
That's
it away.
a teaser.
We got
But
lots of teasers. Come back.
There's just a lot of drama that happened and how we got through it all.
Which, speaking of which, feel free to DM, ask questions about your relationships, anything, honestly, from relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, to family.
We're an open book because we don't want you to go through what we necessarily went through. And to look back, we would do things way differently. If we had our minds right now in our 20-year-old bodies, what would we do differently?
So maybe a little bit of what we share, can help you.
Absolutely.
That's our hope.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us on this really flight 1 of our podcast.
No, 2. This is 2 now.
Yeah, we entered that holding pattern though. So
it's 2.
It's 2. This is how we fight these days. It's kind of an argument like that.
It's like a look, a side-eye look.
Yeah, it's like it's all good. It's whatever you want to call it. Right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.